Now, sometimes you get great opportunities to work with some amazing people and have lots of fun. Join me as I reflect on the few ups and many downs I had on my recent collaboration with Broadsword Wargaming. I'm Peachy, and this is Peachy Tips. So first up, I just want to make it clear, Ollie Fabian of Broadsword Wargaming is a beautiful, beautiful human being, a scholar and a gentleman, very handsome, but mostly because he's a big fan of Sharp. I mean, that's all I need really, isn't it? Now, a few months back, he reached out and was like, Peachy, I've got an idea. And I was like, oh, cool. Tell me, Ollie, I'm interested. He's like, well, I want to do some cool collaborations with a build up to the new Horus Heresy box set coming out. And I kind of need a load of Imperial Army painting up. Would you be interested? And I was like, oh, that sounds great. That was months ago. And months ago was like, yeah, I got loads of time. Yeah, no worries. Could totally do that. As time got nearer, obviously I needed to get my finger out and start actually doing some painting. Now, in particular, he asked if I could aid him in painting up some Imperial Army, a small force of a particular regiment known as the Therian Cohort. Now, you'll be forgiven if you don't know who the Therian Cohort is. Some of you will, because you're die-hard Horus Heresy fans, but there's a fair few of you that will be like, who are they? It's not much on them, really. I did a little bit of research, had a little bit of a read, very little information. All I know is they were at the Isfahan 5 landings and a couple of other battles, but they were assigned to the Raven Guard and they have red clothes with gold. Not a lot to go on, but that's a Peachy challenge, and I like Peachy challenges, so I was like, I'm up for it, Ollie. That sounds great. It was like, yeah, only a handful survived in this battle. I was like, cool, I'm in it. I'll get you sorted. I'll do something. Now, when I was building these, I wanted to use as little Games Workshop kits as possible. Two reasons is Games Workshop kits are renowned for being overly detailed, which is great when you're doing character paint jobs, and obviously any kind of competition level kind of painting, whether that's Armies on Parade or whatever. But when you're trying to get things on the tabletop fast for a project, that extra detail is going to slow you down, and I didn't need that. But also, we all know Games Workshop kits are renowned for being a little bit pricey. So I was like, oh, I'm not sure I want to spend 30 quid on like 10 Cadians and then do some head swaps where I'm going to get these extra heads from. So I thought I'd make use of the old reliable Wargames Atlantic because I love their stuff, and I love their pricing as well. So you get 25 figures for £25. Sometimes you get 30 figures, depending on what you sets you buy, but really, really good, perfect. The Death Fields range is really good. There is a lot of 40k adjacent stuff in there as well, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But before you jump in the comments and say, Peachy, you get all your stuff for free, I paid for these ones, so save yourself some time. In fact, you know what? Jump in the comments and say, oh, that's a really nice paint job, Peach. Really like that. Have a nice positive spin on it instead of like, whinging at me. Or maybe going, oh, that's a Billy bargain, Peach. You're actually quite right. Those Games Workshop kits are a little bit more expensive than these, and I get a lot more figures. I'm going to use your affiliate link and support your channel. So in the end, I opted for two sets. First of all, the Grognard set, really good because they've got big greatcoats, like greatcoats, because, well, then you don't have to paint lots of extra details on the uniform, which is super fast when you're doing lots of things. But also, they can be quite useful. If you don't want to do sci-fi French, you can easily use these as Deathcore Krieg or even Vostroyans or any other homebrew regiment you want to do. There's a lot of head options. You will find this if you're new to Wargames Atlantic. You get a lot of heads in the set, lots of them without gas masks and lots of them with gas masks. So you have gas mask options and not gas mask options. I'll come to that later on when I talk about painting the stuff. The other set I got was the Bulldogs. So they're kind of like sci-fi colonial British, so Zulu War British, but sci-fi. But again, you could easily turn these into Mordians, Praetorians, Cadians even. You got berets in there, you got peak caps in there, you got the plinth helmet in there, some with gas masks and without gas masks. The Brody helmet, I use those for my Trench Crusade stuff. So you get a lot of heads in that set, enough to do them all without gas masks or all with gas masks, which is really, really good. I opted for gas masks on all of my stuff because it's easy to paint. I don't have to worry about picking out the faces and stuff. I might have done some without gas masks on, definitely the officer. Don't know if I did anyone else. I think most of them had gas masks on. I suppose if you are going to do an army using the Death Field stuff, you do get quite a lot because you get the Grognard Cavalry, which are Rough Riders, you get the heavy weapons, which are also really, really cool. And then you get other stuff like the cannon fodder, Ura, so you could do like some Marines, Cadians, I guess Stormtroopers, Savlar, Chem Dogs. You can do quite a lot with these. Might be a video in the making that, what regiments you can do. Yeah, interesting. Now, you're probably asking yourself, Peachy, you said this is like cursed. It sounds great so far. Well, I'm getting to that bit. The curse itself, the curse of the peach of this collab, the curse of the collab, you could say. That sounds like a great novel. Yeah, it all went downhill after this initial preliminary thought process. So I spent ages building all the stuff together, getting footage of that. I had like batch painting footage. I even had all the close-ups I needed. And something went wrong with a lot of the footage. I've got like a few snippets here and there, which I'll be putting over. But yeah, most of my footage was corrupted. I don't know how, I don't know why. I know it's happened before when I worked at Workshop. It's happened before with the odd video that I've done. Like just sometimes it just corrupts or just isn't there. Some of it is on me because I thought I'd backed some bits up and put them into a folder called the Broadsword Wargaming collab folder. And when I went into that folder, it was empty. And I thought I'd backed stuff up and then overwritten some stuff. So that was on me. But that wasn't a lot. That was like a couple of close-ups here and there. I think that was some 360s actually. Yeah, that was the 360s I was doing. Because Ollie, beautiful Ollie, has reached out and said, I'll send you some footage of all the stuff you painted. So thank you for that, Ollie. I'll get that added over as I'm talking. But yes, that was the first issue. Most of my footage was corrupted. I had a few snippets, which I did send to Ollie to use for some of his videos, but it wasn't great. So yeah, a little bit annoyed about that. So after that was a shipping catastrophe. So I did give myself plenty of time to get things painted and shipped off. So I wanted to make sure I got by a certain date for Ollie because I had a cut-off date. So I made sure that I had about a 5-day leeway. So I got a load of stuff packed up, shipped off, and I want to add some extras as well, do some extra models, do some extra details. So I carried on doing a few more to ship a little bit later, still in time for the cut-off date. I want to make that clear. Now, when I checked in, the second shipment had arrived, which is great because that was like a handful of figures. They were sent like a couple of days prior. But the first shipment, which was like, had 5 days already shipped, probably 7 actually, if I think back, because it was a Saturday to a Monday. Yeah, no, it was probably 8 days, Peachy. That had not arrived. That had not arrived. So the chunk of the force had not arrived in time for filming. Not something I could have affected, really, because obviously I gave it plenty of time to ship. But yes, was hugely annoyed because I guess really now when we look at like the collab, there's going to be very little of the Therian cohort that Ollie really needed. So really I feel super guilty because I kind of failed Ollie because firstly the stuff didn't turn up in time for him to actually make use of in the games, and then all my footage corrupted. It was just fraught with that. But there's a little bit more than that. There's a little bit more. Didn't end there. Oh no. But I wanted to at least recreate some of the footage. Well, actually start from scratch, redo it all. So I got a grognard figure and decided to start from scratch and then paint a whole set of stages, which will be up in a minute or two. That went really, really well. Really, really pleased with that. One thing I do like to do is add in those extra steps. So if you want to like paint sergeants, characters, or like take your stuff from a tabletop level to the next level, I like to add that in. Well, when I did that part, this was human error. I've got nothing to blame this one on. I must have pressed stop. How did I do this? How would I have done this, Peachy? So what I must have done was I must have pressed record when I'd finished recording on a section, because I know there was a couple of bits missing. It's not the end of the world because I've got lots of footage still. But when I was doing the next steps, I must have pressed stop because it was already recording at this point. Then did all the stages and not noticing the big red box around the screen. Yeah, observant, I know. And because obviously you're focusing, you've got hyper focus on the actual model, you're trying to keep it central, you're checking to make sure the peaking lines are there, so you keep looking at the screen, you keep looking, you're like, yeah, I can see the yellow, it's in focus, you're doing that, it's in the center. What I didn't notice was the red box around the side. Okay, happens. And then what I did was, I then clicked stop, which actually was record, and then just carried on finishing off the last little bits that I need to do. So the footage you're seeing now is me slightly off screen, just doing those last little tidy ups after I'd done all the filming of those next steps, because it was quite a lot, because I did it all in one take, because it was just like highlighting a bit of cloth here, picking out some like red bits on the guns. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to warrant like a whole section not existing in the video. So yes, if you want some next steps, you're gonna have to guess. So at the end of the video, when I do the 360, I want you to put your comments in the video and work out what colors I used, because that would be fun. Now quickly, just a little bit of housekeeping. I always forget to do this bit. Eventually I'll get better at it and more professional. But I am a member of the Army Painter Factory team, if you're not aware. I've been for a while. I've been sponsored by Army Painters since before I started the channel because I like their paints. Now I have a little affiliate link in the description, so if you click that, that will go to the website. But whenever you purchase anything, I get a little bit of kickback. That's how affiliate links work, if you didn't know that, which is obviously helps support the channel. But also you get 5% off. But it's there if you do want to do it. I'm not certain I'm going to earn millions from it, but it might be enough to buy a box of Yorkshire tea for the house. That is important, actually. Yeah. Anyway, let's crack on. We're painting a model of the Therian cohort. I keep saying Legion cohort, up to and only to tabletop standard, because you'll have to guess the rest. So first up, over a red undercoat, I'm going to get myself some beret maroon. I do like this paint quite a lot, and I'm going to dry brush this. So first of all, I'm going to get myself some tissue. You can use wood, card, whatever. Just wipe as much off as you can, and then gently flick over that red undercoat. So I'm just going to work my way around, just flicking out those edges. This is quite a rough job as well, so I'm not going to be like super precious. The idea really here is to just get some highlights on the greatcoat or any kind of cloth areas. So nothing too major. Then I'm gonna get myself some blood chalice. I'm gonna do the same. This is gonna be a little bit lighter, so almost like tickling the edges. And what I'm trying to do here is get myself a little bit of a highlight. Now, next up, what I'm gonna do is black out all the areas I need blacking out. So that's gonna be mostly boots, belts, straps, gun casing. Now I'm using grim black here. That's the right consistency. You can get matte black and thin it down, whichever works for you. And then just paint it over. Two things are going to happen here. It's a bit more runny, so it's going to run into all those recesses. A little bit easier when it comes to picking out things like straps and stuff, certainly like gun casings. But also as it dries, it'll pull away a little bit from the edges, and that red will ever so slightly show through, giving you a bit more of a browny kind of like dark wine kind of look, which is a really simple, quick, effective highlight. So all the leathery details will have a bit of a browny reddy tone on the edges, which is super, super fun. So next up is to pick out any silver details. So what I'm going to do here is just work my way around all the areas I want silver, so like the helmet. In some places you might want to do a second coat because some of that red might show through, but one coat mostly with gunmetal should be enough. So any like armor details they might have, some of that I want to save for gold as well because I want to show some gold, but I'd like to have some silver details here and there. Mostly going to be on the gun as well. There's lots of like little details on the gun. These make for great las weapons, or I guess heresy era las carbines, las weaponry. Don't forget the details on his gas mask as well, and just the rim around the helmet. And of course the eye lenses too. Then any gold details, I'm going to get myself some greedy gold. So I'm going to pick up the shoulder pads here. So that kind of works really nice. Now usually red undercoat and gold, it does cover over quite nicely. You get a nice effect from that. I'm not really going to need to do a second coat, but in some places you might need to. And then picking out like the odd skull on those knee pads, and of course the details on the helmet as well, because you've got all that trim around the helmet. Again, you don't have to do it. You can leave it silver, entirely up to you. But I'm just going to pick out some little details here and there. Then I'm going to drop in a little bit of pure red for the eye lenses, just to give them a bit more of a kind of a glowy look. And then any tidy ups I need to do, so get some of that beret maroon. It's not quite the same because I've obviously dry brushed over it, but it's a really good way of fixing it. And of course, any little details like buttons I forgot. And then the water canteen at the back. Shield war blue, perfect for like water canteens, I think. Very Napoleonic of me. Then I'm going to get some dark tone. I'm going to apply that all over. When applying washes, shades, whatever, I always thin it down a little bit. I apply it all over, then I start to move my brush around because it will pool in places. But if you dry off your brush, soak off any excess, then you won't get too much pooling. And there we are. There is our soldier of the Imperial Army of the Therian cohort. Now, this is a grognard model. I did do some in the Bulldog outfits as well. There'll be some images of those. But yes, really pleased with that. Really pleased how it came along. What I did do a test early on as well. And I put one of the old guard helmets on with a gas mask. Because I was having a bit of a play around with like, Vostroyans, weird sort of like Imperial Army. Because some of the old Imperial Army look a lot like Vostroyans as well. So it's using the same colours. Exactly the same colours, except obviously he's got a big bearskin helmet with a gas mask. So if you are looking at like some ideas to do different versions of the Imperial Army or even Vostroyans, be perfect. So yeah, grognards for the win. All in all, I want to say this was an amazing project. Ollie did an amazing job organising us, kept checking in. Herding those content creator cats is a hard job because we're all a little bit timey-wimey. And I need gentle reminders from time to time because there's a lot of stuff going off. You've got a lot of plates to spin. You've got a lot of things to do. One of the things of being a content creator, doing YouTube videos or whatever, is these things happen all the time. You do a video, things don't go right. You can either like wallow in self-pity, or you can just rally and have another crack at it. And knowing all most of my footage was done and not available anymore, overwritten some of it because I was an idiot, shipping didn't work out well, I could have just like binned this whole project, because I've got loads of other projects I want to do. I've got like a whole thing I want to talk about Victrix new skirmish game called Pillage. I want to do some 5 parsec stuff. I want to do some more Traitor's Toll. I've got a collab I want to do with Norse Paints about more time. Loads of things on the up and up in the next few weeks, among many other projects. So I could have easily just cashed this in and thought, no, sorry, Ollie, I'm done. I've had enough. But I decided not to. I decided to make a video out of my mistakes and the hiccups that I had, because it is part of the journey. So if you are looking at doing like YouTube content creation, this is going to happen. It's going to be a nightmare. I used to get this all the time at workshop as well. I mentioned this at the start, like files get corrupted. You do a whole day of a project. And sometimes it's like we've lost half the project. You could like cash it in then, or you can just go, okay, right, let's build another figure, let's paint up to a certain point. Do we still have time in the schedule? Yes. Okay, let's crack on. But as always, a massive thank you for watching the video. Big thank you to my patrons for your constant support. Thank you to Ollie for the opportunity. And if you have any questions or comments, throw them into the comment section, especially if you want to, you know, got thoughts on what those next steps were on the paint guide. Absolutely. But also, I completely neglected observing the fact that I managed to hit a milestone of 50,000 followers. Yay! Or subscribers, should I say. Whee! It went by me. I wasn't even paying attention. I was too busy focusing on like videos and pulling my hair out because things weren't going right. But yes, thank you for subscribing, or 50,000 of you. I'm pretty certain not all 50,000 of you are watching this right now, because that's not how the algorithm works. But if you were, thanks. Love you all. Also, I have PeachCon coming up soon, so do check that out. That's less than a month away. If you are a patron, you're getting for free. If you're a non-patron, it's £6. But if you join the Patreon, then it would be a little bit of a Billy bargain. It'd be like £3 less, because £3 the lowest tier for Patreon. All the details on my Patreon, on my social media posts, which are also linked in the description. So do go check that out. I am now, because it's actually, when this is released, it's Friday the 18th of July. And I would have by now probably finished recording, or at least done most of the recording for my next Sharp narrative battle report, which is Sharp's fate. It's not quite into the trench crusades yet. He's not in the trenches yet. He's having a nightmare because he's been sequestered by Wellington to join in the local summer fete and judge all the, well, help judging with all like the turnips and jams and preserves, but also policing said summer fate, because there's a lot of cheating going on. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a little battle report about that using Traitor's Toll, because it makes sense, because that's about like looking for criminals and arresting them. So that's what Sharp's going to do. Him and his chosen men are going to police the living daylights out of this summer fate as riflemen. I think the last time they did something like that though was in Sharp's Justice, and a load of poor people got killed in the middle of a town square because some murderous yeomen that Sharp had to fight. Anyway, I'm waffling. As always, that's what I do, waffling. But yes, I'm on a high after doing this video, because even though it was fraught with problems, I enjoyed it. And that's the thing. You just got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy it. You got to roll with the punches. Anyway, love you all. See you later. Peach out.